Hello everybody and welcome back to another Punishing Grey Raven video. Let's get into it. Today, we are finally tackling the physical element? Non-element? Well, that's confusing. We're going to be tackling the physical characters in Punishing Grey Raven today and talking about who the top 3 physical units are. Now, as I've mentioned before, Punishing Grey Raven is a team-based game, so we are going to be looking at the units in their respective categories, and that's going to be tank, support, and attacker. We're going to be taking a look at all the units that fall into those various categories and see which is the standout amongst each of them for global and CN players. Now, I'm going to be moving a little bit faster in this one because physical by far is Kuro's favorite element in Punishing Grey Raven, and there's a lot of units to get through, so we're going to be moving a little bit quicker this time compared to the other videos if you have watched those ones. But before we jump into that, guys, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate the support, and on to the characters. Okay, so to kick us off, before we get into any of the categories as of right now, I wanted to give an honorable mention to the Nier Automata physical team. The reason I'm not really addressing them in the other categories is they are collaboration units, meaning unless you were playing at the time that you could get those units, they're no longer accessible to you and probably will be. I don't think there's been a rerun yet on the CN side, so it's probably not coming. So if you don't have them, that sucks for you. I don't have them either, so like I feel ya, but just wanted to give them a brief honorable mention here. However, let's start off with tanks. Our first tank unit here is Nanami Storm. All of you should be familiar with Nanami Storm because she's a free unit that you get in Punishing Grey Raven. She is a shielder unit, meaning she does provide a shield for your team. She has a defense down on her blue orb. If you have her signature weapon as well, she does shield the on-field unit during her QTE, which can be very helpful. And being a B rank unit, she is farmable, which does make her very accessible for getting her up to SSS. Our next tank unit is our good golden boy, Kamui Bastion. Kamui Bastion does have a defense down and a short stun on his QTE. He does have a cool counter instead of a shield on his kit, and he is a farmable unit as well, being an A rank unit. Next is the queen of personality. We have Ayla Brilliance. She also is another shielder unit where she does have the ability to give a shield to your team. As well, on her QTE, she does have a defense down on that as well. She's also an A rank unit, which again makes her farmable and really accessible to free-to-play players. Our final tank unit who comes up in this category is Rosetta Rigger. She has a physical defense shred on her kit. As well, she operates more as a sub DPS compared to the other characters previously talked about on this list. She is, however, an S rank unit, which makes her a little more inaccessible, especially since she's already had her banner. So if you do want to get her, it's either through an S rank selector or testing your luck on the S rank banners that do rerun with the 70% chance. As of right now, there are no CN specific tank characters, so today's tank category is only just going to be filled for everybody. Who's the top tank unit available in Punishing Grey Raven? Unsurprisingly, it is Rosetta Rigger. In a game that is ultimately tested by the amount of DPS that you can put out, sub DPS units are definitely going to win out over survival based units in the game. Also, her physical defense shred, that specific shred, does just make overall damage output a lot higher than the other units previously mentioned, even at her base S rank. And that's also because, remember, you can farm a base S rank up to double S minimum through the pain cage. So getting her up to double S, she is definitely going to beat out the other units on this list. However, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but I'm going to mention it again now. This game is about fun, so pick whatever characters you want to pick to play. If you have a waifu or a character who's just your favorite character, always pick that character first because that is what comes first in this game. You can really beat most content with any of the characters, so always feel free to pick the one that's most fun to you. But if we're going strictly from a numbers standpoint here, Rosetta Rigger wins out pretty much hands down. She's a very future-proof unit for any new players out there. The next category, and arguably the messiest for how we're going to be talking about this today, is the support category. The first unit that everybody should be familiar with, as she is another free unit within the game, is Live Eclipse. She is a B rank physical support unit available in the game. She gives shielding to her team members as well as healing. She also kind of works a little bit like a sub DPS with the amount of damage that she can push out, and she does have some good crowd control on her skills. Another great perk about Live Eclipse is if you get her up to triple S, she does have a skill where she boosts physical damage when she is off the field as well. She's a B rank unit, which makes her farmable, so you can get her up to triple S fairly easily. Honestly, of all the B rank units, she's actually quite a standout and a solid unit overall. The next unit is Live Luminance. Live Luminance is a really good flex unit that she can sub into a lot of elemental teams in the case that you have an incomplete meta team. So she's very approachable in that way. She also kind of operates like a sub DPS and has some great survivability that she can really tank a lot. She has a healing ability and shielding ability, both set to her QTE as well, which can just really help with survivability overall, which is great coming from a support unit. And something else that is coming, that has already come on the CN side, is that Live Luminance also does have an Ascension coming, which does change up her kit a little bit. And in her Ascension, the QTE does add a physical damage boost, which I forgot to mention that Live Eclipse also has a physical damage boost. Now, something that's coming that's currently on the CN side is she does have a character Ascension coming, which does give her a physical damage boost on her QTE as well as on her core passive there too. So that does really add a lot of value to her kit at that time when that comes. But speaking of CN, we're going to talk about another CN exclusive unit, and that is Han Ying, Fan Mommy, if you haven't heard. Han Ying is another physical support unit that is a healer who also applies a physical damage boost on both her blue orb and her QTE, and personally I think has the coolest animations on her kit. She just looks so cool. She was one of the newer units when I first started playing this game. On the CN side, I think she just looks awesome. That's just some personal bias there for you. For the first time ever, we do have a third category at the time of recording, and that's not global, not CN, but it's actually beta. We are in a beta category today, as our third support unit we're going to be talking about is Elisa. Elisa is a new physical amplifier that is still, as of right now, being tested out on the beta servers for Punishing Gray Raven. Amplifiers do just give increased boost to physical damage overall, as well as typically operate as sub DPS units, which she does in this case. And she also has a really sweet looking skill set there, if you see on her animations. She's, yeah, overall a solid unit. But then that now begs the question, who is the top physical support unit? Well, this one's kind of complicated. If we were going strictly as of today, time of recording, pre-core ascension for Live Luminance, I might actually pick Live Eclipse. On her kit, she's a healer, sub DPS with crowd control. She's got a physical damage boost on her blue orb. And then if you get her up to triple S, which is farmable because she's a B rank character, she has a physical damage boost when she's off the field. So overall, she is a solid unit. Now, is she going to absolutely, like, blow any other characters out of the water, or maybe even some of the other support units? I don't know about that, but like, she's got a pretty stacked kit for a B rank unit. And right now, Live Luminance feels a little bit incomplete without her physical damage boost. So I would say for global players, if you don't have Live Luminance, don't sleep on Live Eclipse, because she's totally great. Live Luminance, however, I say will definitely overtake Live Eclipse as soon as her core ascension comes to the game. So that's just something to keep out for. But Live Eclipse, honestly, solid unit overall. If we're going based on the CN side, again, still kind of complicated. Han Ying doesn't win out. She is a really cool unit, but isn't going to take it. And it's really hard to say for sure, but Elisa being a physical amplifier, I think it's very likely that she's going to overtake Live Luminance in that support role, just based on what we've seen from all of the other amplifiers that have been added to the game at this point. Now, that's a long time away for global players, so I would say don't worry about Elisa by any means in this case. But I think eventually, again, in a game that's based around how much damage you can output to clear the different game modes, I think probably Elisa is going to end up taking that support slot. But, you know, we'll have more information as more testing is completed on her. So there's definitely an asterisk on this category, but global players, honestly, you could run with Live Eclipse right now until the Live Luminance Core Ascension comes out. And then long term, probably going to switch over to Elisa. On to our final category, and that would be physical attackers. By far, Kuro Games' favorite category of character. Again, because there's so many characters, we're going to go through this one a little bit faster. First off, we've got tried and true Lucia Lotus. Perks, she's free. She's a B rank unit, which makes her farmable. She's got some solid single target DPS, and technically she is also a fire and physical split damage for 80-20, but you know, still primarily physical damage. She's got a really simple kit. You've played her, you know who she is. I don't need to talk more about her. Next is Watanabe, A rank Watanabe. He is farmable because he is an A rank unit. He has also got a solid single target DPS ability, and he's full physical damage. And part of his kit, he does have a backstab ability, which can be trickier to land, but if you do, it is a great amount of burst damage that comes out of his kit. Next is Bianca Zero. She's an A rank unit, which makes her farmable. She's got some solid single target DPS, and part of her passive on her kit is she does have a shorter cooldown on some of her other signature abilities, which is an added perk there, and she is also full physical. She's a ranged based unit, so if you got some skill issues for dodging, it makes it a little bit easier in that case. Next is Karenina Blast, an A rank unit. So again, farmable. She's got some solid AoE damage as part of her kit. Her kind of core skill allows her to switch to a cannon firing mode where she kind of pivots and launches ranged attacks, which are a lot of fun to use, admittedly. But again, she is also a physical and fire split technically at 80-20, so not purely physical. Next is Lee Entropy. He is an S rank unit, so the first unit that is a little more inaccessible, especially because his banner has happened before. He does have strong single target and AoE damage available, but he is also 100% pure physical damage, which is really nice compared to some of the other split damage units. Also a ranged base unit if that is more your fancy instead of the melee unit. And our last global character currently available is Lucia Crimson Abyss. She is an S rank unit and probably one of the top waifus in the game based on the fan base. She has strong single target and AoE damage, and as you can see on screen with her core passive right now, she unlocks this ability to do these ranged slashes that just do a ton of damage, take up a good amount of range, and so you can really pump out that AoE damage as part of her kit. Pivoting to a CN unit here, one that we've talked about on the channel many times before, we have Bianca Obstigma. Bianca Obstigma is a really solid physical DPS unit. Her single target and AOS DPS ability is just insane. She's got insane flashy animations and looks so much fun to play. I'm so excited for that. But she's also got some really good support potential where she's got some solid energy recycling on her core passive. She has lag calculation on her ultimate ability, which does help for extending time in Warzone and Pain Cage to get higher scores there. I'm probably missing some nuances as part of her kit, as this is a character I've not really had the opportunity to play yet, but overall a really solid physical DPS unit. Two honorable mentions who would definitely fall into the DPS category or attacker category, even though they are technically vanguards, would be Chu Pavo, who is a uniframe physical DPS unit, as well as Pulau, who is another physical DPS unit who are in the game. I've briefly talked about it before, that uniframes typically don't really come into the running when it comes to overall damage output and kind of falling into this top 3 elemental category. We'll talk briefly about another honorable mention in a minute, that is a slight renege on that for these characters, but we'll see. Overall, let's go to our top categories. For the top physical DPS unit on the global servers of Punishing Grey Raven, by far it's Lucia Crimson Abyss. Her overall DPS potential, especially if you can manage to get a copy of her signature weapon, is just bar none compared to the other physical units within the game as of right now. She is also just one of the coolest units in the game, personally. So she's definitely going to take that top slot for the physical attacker. However, if we talk about the CN side, we do see a shakeup with, unsurprisingly, Bianca Obstigma. Her overall DPS potential is just off the charts. You can even see on the greyravens.com wiki here, her single target, area of effect, burst capability, support capability, survival ability it's just like off the charts for basically every category. She just completely stomps when it comes to the overall attacker slot for physical teams. Now, recently, Lucia Crimson Abyss did just have a core ascension added to the CN servers of Punishing Grey Raven. However, that doesn't really shake up this slot. It does bring her up to be a little more relevant again, but you know, it's not going to beat out Bianca Obstigma in this case. Now, the last thing I wanted to just briefly mention is there is one final shakeup where we have a case where a Uniframe and Omniframe mixed team can be viably used, and that is the Kowloon Comp. So the Kowloon Comp is Han Ying, Hu Lao, and Chu Peivo, where you can have them mixed to get a full Uniframe physical team, because Han Ying's passive ability does allow her to negate the decrease of damage output by mixing the units on the team, so you can use them. Now, from testing that I've seen, they don't beat out the metaphysical team as of right now. However, it is still definitely a fun composition and gives you another great option if you want to, you know, again, pick the characters that you want to pick and play the characters that you want to play in a viable way. So really love that they've introduced that kind of core passive there, or that passive ability there. So, you know, hopefully we can see things like that in the future, so we have more viable ways to mix Uniframes and Omniframes. So, quick summary and recap. Rosetta Rigger is going to be your top physical tank slot for global and CN players. Your top global support role is going to either be Live Eclipse or Live Luminance. Pre-Core Ascension for Live Luminance. Post-Core Ascension, it's going to be Live Luminance. However, it is likely, we're not 100%, but likely going to be shaken up by Elisa Echo when she does release both on CN and Global for that support slot. And then finally, for our top physical attacker on Global, that is going to be Lucia Crimson Abyss, which then will be replaced by Bianca Obstigma on the CN side, and when she eventually comes to Global, which I will mention is only a few patches from now, for those of you who are excited to play the unit. Caveat, again, as always, pick the characters you want to play because you will have more fun playing them. We're simply just talking about a numbers perspective here. And I will say some of the insights from this aren't all of my own personal testing, but of our general community sentiment and from other stats and details that I was able to find to come to the conclusions that I have in this case. But what do you guys think? Who are some of your favorite physical DPS or just overall units in Punishing Grey Raven? I would love to hear that in the comments down below. If you've made it this far in this video, I hope you found it helpful, educational, and entertaining. A great way to talk about so many physical units in Punishing Grey Raven. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.